This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning back in. If you can, help me out, go down below, hit that subscribe button. Today, I have two people from one of my favorite nonprofits right here in Northwest Ohio, The Right Direction. Today we got Don DeBartolomeo, who is the founder, and we got Jonathan Apicella, who is running their now slackline department. Learn a ton about Don's professional BMX and mountain bike career, as well as The Right Direction's new programs, what they got going on, and Jonathan teaches us a bunch about slacklining, and it is a great conversation. These dudes are awesome to hang out with, so let's dive right into it.
I'm not here for fun, actually, so just the beers.
Well, you've come to the right place then, my man.
He is here for beers. He's part of our new edition, so
yeah, Johnny, how'd you get involved with the guys out there at The Right Direction?
Yeah, so it everything kind of just naturally fell into place. I started slacklining about 2 years ago, and I started building a community, just naturally teaching other people, showing people the sport. And that started about a year into me slacklining. And then last fall, I became friends with Ian Poor, which used to be a demo rider for The Right Direction, for BMX. And I started rock climbing with him a little bit, and then more so slacklining. And then he started telling me about The Right Direction and the stuff he did with them. And he was like, you know, you never know. You could talk to them and see where that goes, and even if they'd be open to doing slacklining. And then I emailed or DM'd Don, and he was like, hell yeah, let's go. This is this is awesome. Just take the reins and work with it. And so here we are.
Sounds about right. That sounds like an email or a response I get from Don. Don, what have you been up to, man? I haven't seen you in a minute. You've been busy.
It's been a while. So have you.
Yeah.
I've been keeping up.
Yeah,
so,
I've been crazy busy.
You have. We've been doing pretty much the same thing, just action sports for the kids. We really had took a backseat to COVID, obviously, so we had to change our game plan. But we did a lot of private camps and clinics, and we worked on projects like the new Rudolph bike park that we did in conjunction with Wood County Parks. So we were able to build the world's largest pump track, and it's in Little Rudolph, Ohio. So that's a pretty big feat. And we also built a skills park there. So now the bulk of our camps and clinics will be at Wood County Parks.
Well, you've seen me ride before, so you know that I need to get out there and really practice. It's not pretty, man. That bike park. But while you're on it, man, that bike park is sweet. How did that come about? Because it just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, bike park.
Yeah, it's so, if you were to go back 2 years ago, we started working on it. One of my buddies, Craig, works at the parks, and we pitched the idea hey, we were already doing camps for the parks, but what we wanted to do is, instead of us building features to bring to the camps, we're like, let's build a really cool, park with features so we can do this the right way and attract more people. So as it started, go back 2 years, we got it passed by the board, Wood County Parks, and then we started fundraising and coming up with designs. We hooked up with Pump Tracks USA, and those guys work with us, and they belted out a sick layout. So this thing has got features that you've never seen at a pump track before. And for everyone who doesn't know, a pump track is basically a giant asphalt BMX track that you can go through without having to pedal. You just use your momentum to kind of carry you through and jump and stuff like that. So it's neat. And then next to it is a skills park where you can learn how to jump, do drop-offs, corner, hit skinnies. So it's neat. And the whole park is laid out the way that we teach the camps and clinics. So starting this April and going all the way through to November, we will start doing camps on various Sundays through Wood County Parks.
Dude, that's sick. I've seen some video, and if people are watching and not listening, I'll throw up some video. I'll steal it off YouTube or something. I'll throw it up there. But man, it's impressive. Sam, who works with you, posted a ton of videos out there when you guys came out. Dude, just flying, doing jumps. It's awesome.
Just take some B-roll off our Facebook or webpage, or we'll hook you up.
Yeah. So the new Slackline program. What do you guys have? What are you guys thinking? I mean, you're probably brainstorming, getting some ideas together. It's hard. I have a Slackline. I'm so bad at it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
You should come out and join us.
There we go. You want to watch an old guy get hurt? It'd be sweet.
Hey,
I'll be there.
Want to watch an older guy get hurt? I'll go.
Yeah, so as of now, what we have scheduled, we're going to be doing monthly 3-day workshops with the Wood County Parks, and then we're going to be having weekly jam sessions where it's like really open format. Anyone can go, it could be really any age, and it's just a really good time, just a whole time for everyone to hang out. I really want to do a lot of stuff with the other sports. We're hoping to get some events popping off this year, because one of my big goals is to get some urban highline demos.
What is urban highline?
Yeah. So for people that don't know what highlining is, it's slacklining, which is you're basically balancing on 1 to 2 inch nylon or polyester webbing, and highlining is basically the same sport but much higher, and there's a lot more redundant safety with anchors. So you have 2 lines of webbing, you have multiple anchors involved, to create that redundancy for the safety ratio, and you're leashed up to the slack line. This would be something that I've always wanted to do. We do this in the woods throughout Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania, but this is something that people are slowly bringing into the city for events. There's actually an urban highline festival going on in Poland this summer, and I'm trying to go to it really badly, but with COVID, it's kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Not sure if I can or want to go, but my goal is to be able to bring that into more of a modern setting.
Well, that's one of the things I love about you guys at The Right Direction. You're just always doing extreme stuff. I watch kids go out and do backflips and crazy stuff that I could never do myself. And I know, Don, you started this whole thing off. So how did the whole organization come together? What was the spark for this?
So if you go back to when I was in college, late 80s, early 90s, I graduated in 91, but I used to race BMX professionally, and then I started racing mountain bikes professionally. And while we would do this, and I was going to school, we would always kind of grab a couple kids. Maybe sometimes there were high-risk kids, or their parents listen, they're not paying attention, or they need something to do. So I'm like, sweet, let's see if they want to co-ride mountain bikes or go ride BMX or whatever. So after a few years, I had friends and some other peers from BG City Council and the mayor at the time, and he's like, you should really start a nonprofit. Do what you do on a bigger level. And I thought about it for a while, and then fast forward 10 years later, I'm like, let's give this a go. So I hooked up with some buddies that had kind of the same vision, hey, let's kind of let's get some bike teams going. Let's find a way to give everyone a chance to try action sports without having all the equipment. So you go all the way back to 2010, and that's when we started it. And then it really snowballed from there. We helped the kids in Bowling Green get a skate park going. And we brought some legitimacy to that, because in the past, when you look at action sports, it's always those skateboard kids or those bike kids, and it's going to be a big drug infestation, or a bunch of kids are going to hang out and put graffiti everywhere.
Punk skaters.
It's true. But we came in and we're listen, we have this program. Here's our vision. We want to come in and do camps and clinics. We want to provide kids to offer classes and camps through the park so that you can increase your programming. And, by offering that, then, they get more money from state and federal government to put back into projects. So it's neat. So we started that whole kind of relationship to where our program is really only there to help serve the community and the people that are in it. We never really do stuff on our own for ourselves. We'll do maybe one fundraiser a year to cover insurance costs or something. But at the end of the day, we'll work with Wood County Parks or BG Parks, because they don't have kids that can instruct the camps. So I'll make these kids write a curriculum, present it, and then go teach it. And we try to do it for the least amount of cost to no cost to the community. So you could have your kids go to a 2-hour camp Monday through Friday, and it's basically $40 a week. So it's neat. And then we provide equipment too, because we hit a point, I would say about 5 or 6 years in, 2015, 2016, we're wow, we have a ton of boys doing these camps and clinics, but we don't have a lot of girls. And then you look back, you're like, oh, it's simple. Like, you know, if you want to skateboard, you still got like a couple $100 in equipment. Same with a bike, same with a scooter. So we started providing the equipment so that kids could try the sport, you know, and we don't care whether they liked it, disliked it, just give them a chance to try it. And in turn, we started turning around, and our camps were almost 50-50 boys to girls when we started that program. It was called our Gear Up Initiative. So we started raising gear so that we could have it. People would donate stuff to us, or we would just buy it. But it worked out really well. And now, fast forward to like, call it 2021, you know, we have motocross camps, wakeboard camps, BMX, scooter, mountain bike, road bike, slackline, you name it, and we're doing it. And it's neat because we provide all the equipment. You know, Jonathan came on board this winter and immediately was able to fundraise, get some donations. So not only are we going to start the slackline program, but he's got equipment to be able to give out to kids, adults, people, whoever, if they are into it. He has slacklines to give. So we try to do that with all of our programs. We try to, you know, get everybody to get exposed to the sport, and then identify the ones that look like they could go somewhere or want to keep going, and then we'll help progress them, you know, athletically. And then the other kids that just want to, you know, like, hey, I like this. You know, I'm maybe not the best athlete, but I want to be involved. So we have those kids like come to the demos or the events, help us put them together, help with the contest. We kind of find something for everybody. At the end of the day, our program works on life skills. So we work on time management, communication, and organizational skills. So we'll take kids who are maybe, you know, socially, you know, inept a little bit, if you want to call it that, and we'll put them in situations where they're hanging out with other kids. They're working on communication skills, maybe by announcing demos or contests. For organization, we'll have kids like sign up or maybe help go out and get sponsors. So we try to find different ways where we can fit these kids into where they actually have a task. And then what's neat at the end, we also help them with resumes and stuff. So I have kids that have worked for us doing, say, instructing camps. And these are maybe 14 to 15-year-old kids. We even had some 12-year-old kids. But what's amazing is these kids don't realize at the end that they've developed a curriculum, they've instructed it, and a lot of our camps we work with special needs kids. So a lot of times we'll have mild to low autistic kids involved, or there may be some other physical attributes that lead to the, you know, any type of handicap they might have, but they work with it. So at the end, you're talking about kids who've taught, you know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks of camps and kind of worked their way through all these issues. And I'm like, listen, this is a great resume builder, because what kid your age is like wrote a curriculum, presented it, instructed it. So it's neat. So we give them a nice foundation as they move forward, and whether they want to stick with the program or move out, they always gain something from it.
Yeah, and I've been out to a couple of your guys' camps, and it's just always so awesome to see. Like, my favorite thing is when you're like set up in a parking lot, you got these mobile ramps and stuff, and you'll just set someone on a chair in the middle of the ramp and
Right.
you'll jump this dude. They always look terrified, and I'm like, this is great. And it is really a great program. I mean, I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a long time, but it's just COVID and everything's
Right.
been going crazy. But Johnny, the slackline stuff, I think one of the coolest things about it is it really, the equipment isn't that crazy. I mean, a slackline is like what, like $50-$70 for a cheap off-brand?
Yeah, it's meant to be affordable.
Yeah,
That's
so
the best part about it.
It's super cool. You can basically set up anywhere. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how much experience do you have in slacklining? Because it's not easy. You have to balance like a SOB.
Yeah. I for like the first year, I didn't really know anything of like the extension of the sport. Really. And up until it was like 9 to 12 months of me slacklining kind of regularly, off and on, it was just kind of like a thing I enjoyed. And then I found like a bunch of communities online that like take the sport of what I was doing and then threw it through the roof into space, about like how like the possibilities you can do, the people you can connect with, the different sports you could cross train it with. It's like endless. And at that point I was like, holy crap, like this sport's like way bigger than me. You know, and at that point, I was like, you know, I want to show the people the sport. I want to, you know, help people as much as it's helped me. And after that, I started training as much as I could. Like, even if it was in the winter, like 20 degrees, I'd be barefoot in the snow, slacklining on campus. And we've been doing it throughout the winter, too. And it's been great. And it's shown a lot, and I'm excited to help out with Dawn and see what else I can do with their organization because I'm super excited.
Like what are the basic like tenets of slackline? Because every like sport or exercise has like its core of what it's about. So what's kind of like the philosophy on slackline?
So the biggest thing, the way I think of it is when you first step on a slackline, your foot's gonna shake, and you have to accept that. Like, there's no way around it. Like, I've never met anyone who stepped on a slackline for the first time and their foot doesn't like go side to side. It's crazy, you know. And just arms up like a cactus, stay loose, and keep your eyes forward and not looking down. Which is like really, it sounds counterintuitive because you're looking down because you're trying to see where you're stepping, where your foot's gonna go, but like it just throws off your balance and makes like the inside your own head, the best way I can explain it is that you're looking at something that's moving and you're trying to stay still on your balance. So whenever you're looking at a fixed point, like the other tree or the end of the slack line, that's what helps you keep your balance.
Yeah, something like similar to paddleboarding, I guess. The hard part I've always had is like even when you're a foot, 2 foot off the ground, it's terrifying when you first start because like it feels like you're way up there, even when you're not. And I bought my slack line, and my grandma has this place up. It's like basically a trailer park community up on a lake, and she goes up there in the summer, and I took it up there and I put it between 2 trees. Within 15 minutes, every kid in the whole park was there. I didn't even get to use it. I was like monitoring these children. They're like, let me try. So, dude, kids love it. It's a great program to add to your curriculum of already extreme sports.
Yeah, we're stoked because it's those things that anybody can get on. It's funny because I pushed back for so long. We've had programs within our organization. I'm like, do we really have to do that? And like scooters was one of them. Like, we really bringing scooters in? And then I sat there and watched these kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're doing backflips and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? But everybody can get on a scooter and do it. So that's what's cool about the slackline program is like there's no reason anyone can't try it. And it's walk up and attempt to balance on the line and get going. So it's pretty neat. Like anything else, I think it's cool because it gives give kids a chance to kind of build confidence and try new things. In this day and age, I feel like kids are like either trapped behind their phone or they have their one thing that they're in and that's it. So it's cool to bring some diversity to not only action sports, but just, what we offer in general. That's why every year we're always open to people like Jonathan coming in that are stoked on a sport and be like, listen, I want to do this. Let's, I've got an idea. I want to, pull it out and let's go.
And that's the thing, like you touched on it earlier, action sports get a lot of like bad hype because it's always associated with punks, like BMX, skateboarding, scooters, all that stuff is always associated with kids like going to the park and breaking stuff and being little jerks.
Graffiti.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean, like the elite athletes in those fields are doing insane stuff.
Right.
Which I mean, you have no shame in hiding that you were like an elite athlete at one point. So man, I want to hear about your career in both BMX and mountain biking because you're the only person I've ever met that's actually been a professional like BMX rider or a mountain bike rider. It's super cool, and you're really good at it. Like just watching you ride is just like I can't even do a wheelie for 2 seconds. This dude's like riding around the parking lot with like one hand standing up on his head. And so how'd you get into it, and then kind of just walk through your career, man? Because I'm really interested. I know we've talked about it in the past, but
yeah. So it's funny when I was, you go back, I was like maybe 11 years old, 10 years old, and my dad brings home a motorcycle and he's like, hey, you want a motorcycle? I'm like, sure. Yeah. Like, dirt bike's awesome. And he's like, sweet, you're working for me now. There's landscaping coming up. So I start working for him. Like, it's like 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. But he gets me this motorcycle. I start riding it. We have trails like off to the side where we lived. One of the kids that lived in the neighborhood, I would ride with him. And, we would do the same thing everybody would do. We would everyone would be like, hey, you guys got to come back when you run out of gas. So we would hide gas cans in the field, fill that thing up like 2 or 3 times, ride. But we would leave the trails and we would shoot down the roads. And I grew up in Menor, Ohio, so we would shoot off there. One time, there was an area there where there was construction going on. And my buddy decides to hit this little dirt mound, and he ends up falling in a ditch, breaks his leg. So no motorcycles after that. Like the parents were like, "We're done. Like you're putting the bikes away. You're done." So I'm like, "Well, what am I gonna do?" And he ends up getting a BMX bike, and he's like, "Here, get a BMX bike, and let's go to the BMX track and race." So he got me to get a BMX bike. I started racing. I liked it. I started doing state races and national races, and then by the time I was a senior in high school, I turned pro racing. And at that same time, I decided, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to race. I'm just going to keep racing. I didn't go to college the first year I graduated, and I kept racing bikes. And at that point, like freestyle was getting big in the mid 80s. So while I was in high school, I started riding freestyle too. And we started a demo team called Tricks Unlimited. And we started doing demos and doing shows. By the time I got to college, the BMX part had kind of waned, but one of our sponsors was GT. And they're like, hey, do you want a mountain bike to help you in college and stuff, and maybe try some events? So I'm like, sure, let's check it out. So they signed us up for this event. And initially I was like, this is just going to be an excuse to get a free bike for college. I'm not wearing a bunch of Lycra and rolling through the woods looking like that. But when I got there, I realized there was jumping contest and something called trials and dual slalom, which was like BMX. So I'm like, oh man, this is like huge. So they entered us in every event in this 3-day. It was called the Gonzo Mountain Bike Festival. It was in Mansfield, Ohio. So we went there, did the events, and I came back. I'm like, all right, this is sweet. I need a different bike, let's go. And then that started my mountain bike career. And then maybe 2 years in, I turned pro in trials, which was like obstacle course riding. So they have all these obstacles set up. And it was nice because I could use my BMX skills, especially from freestyle, would kind of cross over to the trial stuff for balance. And, from there, it kind of went crazy. We started doing demos again. I was working at a bike shop at the time, so we would do camps and clinics. I started doing police trainings, all sorts of stuff. So those skills really, transferred from BMX into trials, which was then turned into mountain biking. And mountain biking had so much more of a legitimate crowd than BMX did. Like there was more money in mountain biking. People that were older were mountain biking, and they had, serious money in their bikes. You're talking about guys that, back in the day, a decent bike could cost you $1,500. Mm-hmm. Guys are walking around with like $5,000 to $10,000 bikes like it's nothing anymore. So it was a cool transition, and then we just started, going insane with the mountain bikes. And BMX was the foundation of TRD, and then it kind of moved into mountain biking because so many people could do it. So my career kind of started like that and just kind of tapered up. It's been an awesome ride. I mean, my bike has taken me places that I would never, ever have been able to go to if I'd done something else.
Do you have any particular kind of races or stuff that stuck out over your career?
So, there were some national races I did that were really cool just because of some of the people I had to go up against. I mean, back in the day, there was events called War of the Stars, and it was like an NBL sanctioned race. That was always really cool. I remember that. The trophies were like always bigger than you. I had to take them apart to get them in my car. They had like clocks in them and stuff. It was cool.
That's sick.
That was always sweet. It's like anything else, I think. Doing it, winning stuff, and moving up the ranks is always cool, but it was always like, hopping in your car with your buddies, rolling out to the track, coming back. It's always the journey that was the best part.
Oh, yeah.
And you fast forward that to mountain biking, and it's crazy because as we competed, like 1996, I won the U.S. championships, and we got to go to Atlanta to do the open and closing ceremonies of the Olympics.
Nice.
And they had exhibition events that we were a part of. So it was awesome. So that was a cool experience. But there's so many things that I've done and places that I've gone to. But again, the best part is all the people that you've met over the years. And it's funny because some of the people that I work with now or know through work are all people that I grew up with riding bikes or in the bike community. I mean, I have friends who are engineers. I have friends who work for companies that are head of marketing and guys who are reps and regional managers and stuff. So it's cool to still see all these people still interested in the sport and attached to it one way or another, which still kind of brings everything together, back from the riding on. So it's cool. And that was a big part when we did TRD, was to try to bring that to the areas that we live in. How do we bring cool events? Like we do that Biketoberfest. Like how do we bring a big expo type event into this area? And mix all the things that we love to do, cycling and, the demo stuff, the jumping, we can bring slacklining in. We can bring everything we do into one event and then add local vendors like, hey, we want to support all the craft brewers in the area. And, we want to give back to the community by auctioning off and demoing all this stuff in camps and clinics. So it's super cool what we've been able to do.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, always all over the place doing killer stuff. And one of my favorite things here locally that's happened in the last, I'm gonna get crucified. I don't know how long it's been. A few years ago, they built the mountain bike trail at Oak Openings. I know you guys had quite a bit of a hand in just working with them on that. I love that. I bought a mountain bike. My wife and I bought like real crappy REI mountain bikes just because like it's hard and I'm not that good at it. So we ride out there. And it's just so awesome to have that in Northwest Ohio. When I tell people we have a mountain bike trail in Northwest Ohio, they're like, get out of here. Because, I mean, I branched out a little bit on the podcast. I'm talking to people all over the country now. But, like, locally, like, we're killing it here.
Oh, yeah.
A mountain bike trail. We got the Rudolph Bike Park. So, kind of, what was your part in that mountain bike trail? And do you have any kind of advice for people riding that trail? Because I think it's awesome. Because it's great for me, someone like me.
That trail is killer. So we've worked for, years upon years to help kind of break the ice with the metro parks. And at the time, it was a very equestrian, board that was there. And there's always been like a pretty split up the middle deal with horse owners and cyclists and stuff, because they were there first. They have the trails. Once we kind of went through, I think, and educated everybody on how small of a footprint a mountain bike trail leaves, and the Metro Park had some really key players like Dave Zink and Matt Killam. Those guys there really helped push forward the idea of like, hey, this can work for everybody, and the Metro Parks is a great place for everybody to use. We want to bring more people in. So by kind of working with them a little bit and having some input in the design of the trails and helping stuff get into there and then offering, again, programming, just like we do everywhere else. We're like, hey, we will come in, like our program will step in along with the bike shop, and let's offer camps and clinics to get this going. And we did that even before the trail was there. But once the trail was in place, then it was amazing because here we're showing people how to take advantage of this resource. And there's not every town has a mountain bike, trail system. And not only did these guys put a trail system in, but within 1 year's time, it was amazingly kept up. I mean, the trail, like whether it be the soil conditions or the fact that they ran it one way certain days and other ways the other day, they kind of go opposite. The trails were just perfect. They had an amazing group of volunteers that really kind of helped out with features and things like that. But before you knew it, we've got like over 12 miles of trails. And it's nice because we're flat, but there's a lot of features in there that you can go through and kind of figure out, once you get confident, you're like, hey, I can take that bridge now, or I can go over that skinny, or I'm going to, take this jump. So it's cool. I always tell people, I'm like, it's the easiest trail to learn how to mountain bike that I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's cool because, most trails have topography. We have flat. Yeah. But they did the best making do with what they had, which is amazing. So that's when I think a lot of people go through there and realize they're like, holy cow, like I've had friends that have come up from Cleveland, and Cleveland's got some pretty cool trail systems. Yeah. And they're like, man, I can't believe how nice the facilities are, the trails kept up. And that's pretty much always been the Metro Parks MO. Like everything they do is stellar, right? Everything's to the T. Mm-hmm. If they're going to have bathrooms, it's going to be the cleanest bathrooms you've ever seen, the showers ever.
That's true.
And their trails really well maintained. I mean, they get volunteer work on a weekly basis when the weather permits, right? Mm-hmm. But it's stellar. I mean, hats off go to them. Everything they do is killer. And now think about this. You have a treehouse village where you can stay in multiple tree houses. They're going to be renting bikes. You can go down, rent bikes in the beach house, and then pretty soon there may be some more things in that area that are pretty killer. And then we have a skills course there as well too. So we also go out and teach camps at Metro Parks, and that skills course there is, super nice.
Yeah, the skills course is killer, man. That like I'm still scared of that thing for the most part. I mean, but you aren't joking though. Like when they first opened that, I think there was maybe 6 or 7 miles of trail. And then they
Right.
expanded across the street, and it's just this 12-mile loop. And, like, you think Ohio, you're like, yeah, whatever. Maybe Southern Ohio have some gnar. Dude, that trail gas you out. It wipes me out. I mean,
It does. If you're hammering through it, I mean, guys that are quick can do it in under an hour, but for most people, they're doing like an hour and a half.
That's me.
You know,
Hour and a half.
but it's fun. You can do it either way. You can either roast through it and get your Strava segment, or you can, go through it like we do, and we'll go through stuff. When we ride with people, like we'll do group rides, and sometimes we'll just ride the loop, but sometimes we'll stop and be like, hey, who wants to go over this obstacle? Like, who's scared of this and who wants to try it? And we'll work on it. So it's cool that you can kind of do that there. You're not like careening down a hill, and having to worry about 5 people coming behind you.
See, I feel like that's like probably my favorite part about the this like new like mountain biking you guys have here in the Northwest Ohio area is that for me, I've never really tried mountain biking because my friends would take like normal street bikes and rip it through the woods.
Yeah.
Like when we were younger, but I always got hurt. I didn't know what I was doing, and I sucked at biking. And whenever my friends like, "Oh, let's go mountain biking," so I rent some bikes, and I look at the trails online, I'm like, "That looks terrifying.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not
it's
gonna
true.
try that."
It's true.
and here we are, like something that's like pretty mellow that like you said, anybody can do. Anyone can try it.
What's cool is with some instruction, it goes a long ways. I remember when I was riding trials, and one of the directors of Norba came to me and said, "Hey, I want you to do some camps and clinics to kind of help our experts become pros." And I'm like, really? I'm like, those guys already know what they're doing. I'm like, so these guys are pros, are getting paid. He's like, come up the hill and watch the race with me on Sunday. So I come up with him, and he's like, watch how people are jumping or doing this stuff. He's like, their body position's wrong. He's like, they're getting hurt. Their bike's getting wrecked. And I'm like, oh, man, I guess so. I guess you had a lot of guys that used to be fast on a road bike and thought they could just have the endurance to come and crush it on a mountain bike. But we started doing these skills trainings, and I'm like, man, you take for granted what you learned in one individual sport, and then by passing it on, you're like, holy cow, you're helping a lot of these guys kind of stay on their feet, go faster, learn different skills. And then it transformed into the whole police thing. We started doing police trainings at Cleveland State University in Tri-C with a PIMBA, which is like International Police Mountain Bike Association. Okay. So we did stuff with them, and then when I moved back up here into Northwest Ohio, we started doing it with one of the Sylvania leaders, Al Beadle, that kind of heads that up, and we started finding like a need to do, police, fire, and SWAT training for mountain bikes as well. So the little bit of skills even taking 1-2 hour little camp from us, you'll learn so much stuff, and it makes the experience way more tolerable, and you enjoy it more because you're not as tense coming over stuff. But that again is the best part about Oak Openings is there's you don't have to hit the crazy things if you don't want to. You can just roll through it.
Yeah. And
you kind of learn at your own pace. I've got a lot of my buddies that their wives and stuff are like, man, I'm never mountain biking ever. Like, this is crazy. And they went out there and they're like, oh, this is it. This is amazing. I love this. So they may not be fond of some of the other trails in Michigan and stuff that start to get a little rowdy, but they love this, and it's great exercise. So I'm down with it. They've had so much use there. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I recently have gotten my first taste of actually mountain biking in some gnarlier terrain. My cousin lives in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And I went down there to visit him, and his father-in-law is huge into mountain biking. Like they're like, yeah, you can borrow one of our bikes, and it's like the $10,000 bikes you're talking about. I'm like, dude, I don't want to ride your bike. Can I go rent a shitty bike up the road somewhere? I really don't want anything to do with this. And yeah, man, as far as elevation goes, killed me, destroyed me. I was walking up the hills, but when you get on those downhills on some of those trails, but a lot of them, there's some gnarly jumps on those, and it's you have this little skinny trail around them, and then it's just this 8-foot jump. You're like, oh no. So yeah, we're really lucky here, I think, to have that. And I wanted to tell this story because I remember we were filming the episode of the TV show. I had zero mountain bike experience. I ridden one time in my life. Mm-hmm. And Don comes out there, and he the only advice that still sticks with me to this day is if you're doing something, just commit.
Right.
Because if you try and hold back, you're just gonna eat so hard.
It's true.
And I remember riding in a line between you and everyone at your shop. I'm in the middle. You guys are hauling ass. It's my second ride ever, and I'm terrified. It was so fun though because it forced me to not wimp out. We're just cruising through the
you did
woods.
good that day. It was fun.
But So for beginners, obviously most of the people around here are beginners because the trail is relatively new. There's a lot of people getting into it more and more. You work in a bike shop, so you see the volume of bikes getting bought, I'm sure. So for the beginners out there, what's some like really good, solid advice for like day one out on the trail? You got like no experience. What would you say to these people?
So I tell people a lot of times, I'm like, the first thing is, there's so many, like the parks offer camps, our program offers camps. I always say, hey, take a camp or, hook up with a friend that's been out there. It's always good if you're going to the trail for the first time, you want to kind of follow somebody out so you can judge speed, know where your turns are, kind of get an idea. You always take it easy the first few times out till you understand the trail and know what's coming up. Realistically, for a lot of people, it's having the right equipment. A lot of people try to go out and they have, a real low-end bike. And sometimes that's not bad for your, to go out and just try it and test the waters. But a lot of times that equipment will not allow you to ride the trail and have an enjoyable time. Like you'll struggle shifting, like the tires aren't right, the bike may not be the right size. So having correct equipment and then kind of hooking up with somebody that knows the ropes a little bit, because someone can teach you 2 or 3 things that really will change your experience night and day on the trail. I mean, the first day we do camps and clinics, I always tell people, hey, you have a good foot forward. Like, what's your good foot forward? If you're right-handed, typically it's right foot. But when you hit obstacles, you're rolling through flat turns, you're always pedals even with your good foot forward. And a lot of people don't do that, or they don't pay attention to it until you tell them. But that's one thing makes almost 80% of the difference in everything you do on the trail. So just simple mechanics. I mean, it's easy. Anyone can get on a bike and ride, right?
Yep.
But with a couple small tips, they can go out and have a super enjoyable time and even kind of start pushing the limits.
That's one thing that I continually tell myself out on the trail is just keep your feet flat. Because it's such the opposite of road biking, because you just put your foot down and coast.
Just keep pedaling.
And it really does make your legs a lot more tired holding them level until you get used to it. But you hit one of those roots and you bust your toe a few times, you'll remember to keep them flat,
if you catch your foot on a stump or something out there, you'll know. But that's why the camps are so important, because it teaches people. And it's nice because we can watch them, we can videotape them, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing this, until you show them. And you're like, oh, yeah, like you're doing it at the last minute. And a lot of times it's just instinct. You don't know unless somebody kind of helps you out and tells you. So that's why I really like the camps and stuff that we offer, because it makes a big difference. And we have some pretty amazing riders in the area. Like, we got a lot of guys that are pretty hardcore and have been riding forever, whether it be road bikes and transition to mountain bikes or just mountain bikes only. But there's some studs like in this area that kill it. I mean, we've got men and women that just slay. Yeah. So, and even those guys will come out and take our camps because they want to improve their skills. So, anyone can learn from any of the camps that we have, whether you're a hardcore expert, professional rider, or someone who's never put a leg over a bike before. Yeah. And we've had kids on training wheels come out and do camps. It's hilarious.
Yeah, man. It's never a bad idea. Even if you think you're like the best, it's never a bad idea to just try and get better. Like, there's no shame in going to a camp and trying to get better. Like, that's something I desperately need to do here soon. So, but with COVID and stuff, you never know when stuff's going to open and who's going to be available to do what. So it's just a huge pain.
So we had a good way to address it last year. So we almost did more camps last year than we did when we had them scheduled, because we offered private camps. Okay. So we tell people, like, hey, like, if you wanted your kids to get involved in BMX, skateboarders, scooters, or mountain bike, contact us. We'll put you in touch with the instructors. Like, I did a ton of mountain bike camps privately, and we did it from groups of like anywhere from like 2 to 6, and we kind of kept it that way. And then we would have 2 or 3 instructors, and we would do it, either at the Metro Parks. Now we'll do it at the Metro Parks or Wood County Parks, at the Rudolph Bike Park, and it was an easy way to do it and kind of get around that. So, and that allowed us families to get together, kids that were just stuck at home. So we really were more busy because everyone had more free time. I think now that they just announced last week that they were going to open up festivals, parades, and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now pretty much it's everything goes, but you got to wear a mask. So we can deal with that for now. So I think moving forward that you're going to be able to do these things outside. I don't even know if they're going to have to put a cap on stuff, because we have, like with our Wood County Park stuff, I think we have a cap set at 8 or 10 per camp.
Okay.
But with this new him passing the little decree or whatever you want to call it, where they can allow the parades and festivals and stuff, I think that may blow things out a little bit more. Plus, we're outdoors, so you can space.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting slowly moving back towards normalcy. But with us, if people reach out to us, we do Saturday afternoons, Sundays, and we have Mondays free that we do these camps and clinics.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to stuff like actually opening back up so we can
Nice.
actually. I mean, the outdoors. The great thing about the parks is they never shut down. Even when things were at their craziest with the COVID stuff, like they never shut down anything. Like they just stayed open. So that's been a lifesaver for people like me. So I just met you today, Johnny.
Yeah.
I got some questions for you. You seem like a man who likes to travel, get out there, do stuff. You got any cool like stories from getting around? You said you were just in Vegas the other day. That's pretty crazy out there.
Yeah. I was just in Vegas this past week. I went there to see my family. They live in Arizona now, so I don't get to see them as often as I like to. But for the first 2 days, we were in Nevada. And we're out there in Vegas, and it was pretty cool. They definitely had it at a very low capacity, especially what it used to be.
Yeah.
But for me, I like having a good time, but like sometimes if I'm like around like big crowds, like 100% of the time, like I get tired of that. And I didn't get tired of that, which is the best part. And like, a few hands later at the dealer table, and then it's like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I still don't want to go to bed, but
Been there.
Yeah, we made ourselves go to bed, but it was good. It was good, But honestly, probably the best travel stories I really had the past year was when I started my experience with one, slacklining, and then how that transitioned to highlining. I remember this it was actually last fall. I went to West Virginia, and this big get together of like 20 to I think 35 slackliners went out into the mountains, and we rigged I think it was like 4 or 5 high lines. One was about 30 meters, another was 50. Then we had a 70, a 110 meter one that I rigged, and then they had a 350 meter line, and we were just up there on the cliffside like all day and just hanging out with your friends. I met a bunch of new people. It was like probably the most amazing experiences I've had.
Well, I can't even fathom getting up that high on a slack line like that.
Yeah.
I would literally shit my pants. There's no way.
It's true.
Dude, what the heck?
Yeah.
How do you get the balls to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so there's generally like a big misconception about the sport. I've had my parents, I've had friends come up to me saying like, do you have a death wish? Like, what is wrong with you? It's like, and like, no, it's like, I went into this, I went into this with a lot of knowledge. I researched as much as I could, and I found people that I could trust, and then we built off each other's knowledge, especially people that are certified and have, have been taught very well for years. And then the next step is that you're knowing that what you're doing is safe. It's just getting over the irrational fear of, you're looking down and you're super high up. And honestly, like I've been doing it since early fall, that side of the sport. And I'm still getting over that mental aspect. Kind of like we were talking about with having like a mentor, someone to tell you, hey, you're just doing this one little movement wrong. I remember the first time I was trying to stand up, I was holding onto the line as I was trying to stand up, and I kept on falling, and like I was just like, "What's wrong?" And then I looked at the video, and I wouldn't let go, and I was like, "This is so stupid."
Have you fallen off at like a big height?
Well, you're tied in.
Yeah. But like, you've taken a tumble or two.
What do you mean? I mean, falling off the line. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's. What is the I mean, is it just like a bungee cord hooked to the line or what?
Yeah, so it's generally there's different forms of what you call it a leash. It's about a 9.8 millimeter rope with a protective tubular webbing around it, and then you have 2 aluminum or steel rings at one end, and then you have it tied in with a figure 8 that's finished off on your climbing harness. It's actually like I said, like if you go into this sport with knowledge and you do this correctly, like you shouldn't ever just go out and do this. I'm not saying for anybody just to go out and do this.
Just throw one over the Grand Canyon and go for it.
That's right.
But it's if with the right people, the right knowledge, and right ethics and practice, it's the safest form of the sport. Because you're falling off of it, and when you fall properly, it feels like you're landing on a cloud. Like it feels super nice, especially with like the right tension and the right length.
You just don't crap for 2 days when you're diving because you're like,
yeah. I mean, your pants might be a little wet, but I mean, who cares? You're in the woods.
You almost have to get up there first and have someone just fall off. And be like, all right, let's get this out of the way and figure this out, and then go.
But that just those heights are just like, so you're not like when you're up that high. You're not like in the trees anymore. What are you tying off to? I mean, like,
well, in West Virginia, we're above like the tree line. Well, the cliffside that we're on that had trees, but we're above trees in that sense. There's a few lines in Ohio that we can rig. You're like in the trees really, like you're around them, and we picked out lines that are like safe to walk across. So it depends where you are, There's crazy lines like out in like Europe and around the world where people are like doing crazy stuff. But
we need to get it dialed in so when we start doing demos and we do stuff in cities, we can do stuff building to building and have it going over the ramps and stuff. Yeah.
Do that.
We have some cool stuff like thought up and planned depending on what COVID allows us to do this year. There might be some cool opportunities for those guys to show off some highlighting.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's so crazy because no matter what the sport is, there's always people that are going to take it to that like extreme level. And I love that because it's so cool. But like, I'm just having a hard time grappling with like, how do you take that step from like getting off of like a foot off the ground to like 40 feet off the ground? I mean, is it like you just kind of got to like practice and then just go for it? Or is it like...
I mean, like I said, with like the first year of me slacklining, I didn't really know much about the sport, and especially in Bowling Green, there was like nobody slacklining like at all. And, I didn't even think of like highlining as a possibility. I didn't really know it was a thing. I just kind of thought it was like different tightroping. Like that's really the way I saw it.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And so when I got more connected with the community and started reaching out with people and then seeing the possibilities, I was like, and like finding a lot more like education and any kind of like online documents. I was like, this might be a possibility for me. And I was like super on the edge for the longest time because like even though I was looking into it like every day, I was just like, this doesn't seem like something I want to do. And then I took the step and I was reached out to the right people and I got to join them on a trip, and it was probably one of the best decisions of my life.
Dude, I wish I had more time. I would love to. I'd like to just go out. Like, I really want to see this when you guys do the Highline stuff because that's crazy. Like, like mountain biking's hard. It's a little scary, but like that seems way scarier to me because like I know what can happen if I mountain bike. Like I could just totally eat it and like jump off something and face plant. Like I'm mentally prepared.
But you're planted to the ground most of the time.
Like 90% of the time.
It's true.
Yeah, but like no, it is cool because like the thing that I'm really stoked about with like with mountain biking, yes, you can get started for cheap if you go to a camp or you rent bikes or you do something like that. You can get into it. But if you want to mountain bike, you're talking like probably a minimum of like $1,000 investment.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, but like that's for like a lowest end bike that's not junk, like complete garbage. Like, don't go to Toys R Us and buy a mountain bike and head out on the trail because you're gonna.
No, it's true.
Break the plastic.
But are there like higher end slack lines like for stuff like that, or is it just kind of a free for all at this point?
No, there's higher end equipment for sure. Generally, the equipment kits that we're talking about earlier, they're like 50 to 70, sometimes $90. It depends where you're getting. Like that's like simple ratchet stuff, and like you're using carabiners, the tension, your slack line, you're using cheap webbing. And honestly, the reason why I like it so much is like I'm still using stuff that I got from like the very like time I started slacklining because the equipment lasts a while, and like really the way my mindset is like I don't need like this high end like webbing. It's definitely not as important than a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. I'm sure getting a nicer mountain bike is really, really useful. But with the slacklining, I'm still using all the different types of webbing, and I'm even lending out to other friends. But when you're getting like higher end stuff, you're doing like long lines, you're doing trick lines, you're gonna have to buy safer equipment because you're playing with a lot higher tension, and there's more inherent risk into it. But if you're just doing like small park lines, all you need is like $50 to $70, and then there you go.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's kind of like a blend between like climbing equipment and basically slacklining equipment, like with the harnesses and the safety equipment. It's like if you fall from a height, you're gonna want all those, the knots and the carabiners and all that stuff. So it's really good that there's a safety aspect, because I could see somebody just putting the line up like 8 foot in the air and just dying, like breaking their neck.
Yeah, just if anyone listening to this is going highlining, do not use carabiners for highlining,
right,
or long lining.
Yeah.
And they use mats too, so they'll have mats they'll even put underneath stuff.
Yeah,
that you'll see.
That makes sense.
And especially if you watch, like I watch videos of those guys doing trick lining stuff where they're freaking bouncing on it and doing flips that's just totally out of hand. Like it is totally out of hand.
I'm like teaching myself how to trick line now. I go into like the more yoga and like long lining and like I said with high lining. But my buddy Dillman, he's coaching me to be a trick liner.
It's insanely impressive. It's insanely impressive when you see it. I mean, the regular stuff is already difficult, right?
Yeah.
And then you start throwing in this acrobatic part to it. And I laugh because I had friends of ours at the shop and they're like, man, what is this slacklining thing? And I started showing them so Jonathan put together a pretty dope video. He had a bunch of friends come up on the campus and do some stuff, and it was really cool. And they're like, oh man, some of these people were in gymnastics and some were into yoga. They're like, oh man, I didn't even know any of this existed. I'd like to try this. So immediately after just showing someone like a 2-minute video, you're like, oh, everyone's like, I want to check this out. Like, I just want to see. It looks hard, but I feel like, it'd be something I'd like to try to learn. So it's cool to see those people that are into gymnastics or really heavily yoga-based, like saying, man, I really think I could do this, and this would bring just the next level of balance to me. And it absolutely would, but then you look at that trick lining stuff, and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah,
what is happening?
It's definitely a higher impact for sure.
Dude, it's ridiculous. I mean, on a bicycle, you ride it, you're holding onto something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get it going. On this, I'm like, all right, you're doing all this, and then you're landing back on that 3-inch wide slack line. Good luck.
The
Wedgie Festival, or you're going down, or you pull it. Like, what's it going to be?
Yeah, the first time I ever cleared the whole distance of the slack line, terrible form, all that stuff, I just felt like I was the most badass dude on earth. I can't imagine jumping on it, dude. My foot would never leave that slack line.
Dude, there's guys that ride slack lines on bikes, on mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Oh yeah, they ride, and it's you should see.
Video, yeah.
I have guys who've done massive cliff breaks and stuff, and have gone across these ravines. To guys who have side hopped up onto it and ridden the whole thing and then hopped off. I'm like, what?
That's the next Don move right there.
You got it, Don.
Yeah, now that's sick. That combining the two sports. You better work on that one.
So we're gonna when we start doing wakeboard camps and some stuff, we're gonna start bringing those guys out and doing stuff over the water, and we're gonna try to find a way to integrate the slack line with the box jump, the demo team guys. And we're going to find a way to either have guys jump over them or have them slackline over the guys jumping. So which would be sick, because those guys are hitting 8-10 feet over the top of the box, which is already 6 feet off the ground. So you're talking about 15 feet up. Dude. So it would make for some really sick kind of collab events. Dude, that's what you need to do next. Aptitude Outdoor Festival.
That's what
When are you going to do the expo?
When I have money.
See, when I have money.
One of these days when I hit it big, I get those million YouTube views, but that's not
Dude,
today.
what we need to do this year when we have our Biketoberfest is you need to come and purvey the event. You need to be the MC. You need to capture everything all about it and get the whole expo vibe.
I can see it.
Yeah,
It could be a good gig.
I didn't get to go last year. It was weird timing for me, but I mean I want to check out everything. That's my problem, and I'm always here, there, this, that.
We're gonna try to keep it the first Saturday or the first Sunday in October. That's when we've typically done it. Last year we couldn't do it at all because of COVID. So this year I think we're good. We're gonna do it no matter what. whether it be at the metro parks, if everything allows, if everything doesn't go south, but if it does, then we're going to do it on private property and stuff. It was big. I mean,
Do a live podcast from there.
it'd be sick.
Yeah.
The last time we did it, we had 800 people show up. So
It looked like a good time. Beer, bikes.
yeah,
Those are that's like my 2 favorite things.
See?
Well, 3 favorite things.
that's right.
A question I had for you, Don, and this is a selfish question on my part. Being that we're in the Midwest, we have access within a few hours drive to tons of places. So bang for buck, beginner, expert, whatever. What's kind of like the favorite places to ride that aren't Oak openings?
So I would say some of the best places in this area, and I would put this up to some of the top 4 or 5 places I've ever ridden across the country. Michigan has amazing trail system. So DTE is stellar, flow trails. So you've got some climbing, but you have some amazing payoffs as you come down with big built-up berms. If you want to ride something that's the bike equivalent to Disneyland, DTE is really good. Okay. If you want to stay in Ohio, you can go down to Chagrin Valley and ride East Rim. And there's also a trail just a mile maybe down the road called Hampton Hills.
Okay.
Out of hand. They kind of follow the topography of the Chagrin River. So it's not as much punchy climbs. It's more gradual. Really, really nice. Those would be like my 2 favorite spots. And if you're pulling from there, then I got to go. Like Vermont's got amazing mountain biking. North Carolina has stellar mountain biking. And then you go to the West Coast and, they've got some pretty killer stuff too. But I tell you what, our area, like Michigan and, you get down to the Chagrin Valley area, it's killer.
Well, I bring this up all the time on the show, is that it's so underrated here because, yes, we are not Colorado. Right. We are not Vermont. We are not these mountainous places, but the amount of stuff that you can get into around here is just mind-blowing. Like, from where we're sitting right now, within 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you can go kayaking. You can go mountain biking. You could slackline. You could drive 2-3 hours and you could go backpacking. You can backpack at Oak openings. I mean, road biking, we didn't even touch on that. I mean, road biking around here is like the premier, what everyone does, which you can speak on a little bit. I know you're into road biking. So how big is it around here?
It's always been big because you've got clubs like Maumee Valley Wheelmen that have really kept up the tradition of racing and kind of showing people the etiquette of road riding and how to draft and things like that. Toledo Area Bicyclists is another huge club that's really kind of helped the cause. But it's nice because, like anything else, I mean, to mountain bike, we have a lot of stuff close, but at the end of the day, you got to pack your bike up, you're driving somewhere, you're riding. To road bike is just, what do I do? Go out of my garage and start riding somewhere? So I use it as a way to keep in shape so I can eat the food I want and drink the beer I want, right? You can burn what you want. But it's a great way to kind of get out and just take advantage of the bike paths, roadways in the area and just get some exercise. And it's pretty efficient. So I use it as a means to kind of keep up with everything else, but it's funny because I do it almost every single day. I'll jump on my road bike and kind of get going. So it's big. It's always been big in this area. There's a long tradition, but the mountain bikes coming on board really gave people more of an option because a lot of guys you see on those mountain bike trails a lot of them are road riders that are super strong.
And so this might be a hard question, and it might be a hard one to answer, but for someone looking to do all of it, mountain bike, road bike, I know they make some cross training bikes. What's your opinion on those? Because I've heard it both ways. Like some people are like, these cross training bikes are sweet for the road and you can still ride mountain. Would you say it's better to get both a mountain bike and a road bike, or to start out and just get a cross training bike for just for both applications? Because
it depends where you're at in the sport. Like I tell a lot of people that are first time bike buyers, like, hey, like I want to be able to ride everywhere. So I kind of talk them into a bike, that's not maybe the best at everything, but it'll do all of it. Mm-hmm. So there are bikes out there, kind of like wider tire fitness bikes, almost like a narrower flat bar mountain bike that you can go do, and it'll let them experience on-road, off-road, towpath, a little bit of oaks. But eventually, as they start to find their niche, or if they're really into it, you'll get separate bikes. Because guys that ride road bikes want something a little bit geared higher so that they can go do the miles and it's real light and almost effortless. Where on a mountain bike, you want much lower gears because it's easier to get over those obstacles, climb the hills. And on the bikes that do everything, they're kind of like a gear in the middle. So it's not the best on the road, it's not the best off-road, but it does allow you to experience all of it. So it depends. Most people that I see getting something that will do all within 2 years, they have a road bike and then they have a mountain bike.
Yeah, and a lot of the people I know are kind of one or the other. Like you know, my buddy Will.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, come on, like
I know.
borrow a mountain bike, come with me. You can borrow my wife's. It's like $1,000 REI bike. Like it's just got front suspension. There's no.
We keep trying to get Will to come out and ride off road. We've only got him to ride road with us a couple of times, but he's got a dope road bike.
Yeah.
He's got that moto background, man. So
Yeah.
he's out there repping for. He doesn't want to get hurt.
That's what I said.
He doesn't want to get hurt.
I said you're gonna get hurt no matter what, so just suck it up and do it.
We tried to get Will to come out here today to make a special guest appearance, but he was busy.
Yeah, we'll get him on here one of these days because he does the motocross and stuff.
He just said as long as we mention him, we're good.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll cut this part out then. Sorry about that. But yeah, man, I really want to thank you guys for coming on and sharing your awesome stories. I'm really stoked for The Right Direction. You guys have always been one of my favorite organizations in the area. Sorry to play favorites, but you guys do sweet shit. That's all I can say. Before we take off here, I know you're a busy man, so I want you to just let people know where to find you guys and where they can, find you on social media, website, donate, because you're a nonprofit. I mean, want to see you guys do better and more than you ever done. So
yes, that's the plan. So you can see more about our program online at therightdirection.org. We have a Facebook page, which is the Right Direction Youth Development Program, and then we have an Instagram page, which is like the_right_direction. So you can catch us any ways like that. If you want to donate to the program, 100% of all the proceeds that come into our program go right back into equipment for the kids and stuff. We don't have anybody on payroll. Everything goes right back. Everything we do is volunteer. So if you go to our website or our Facebook page, there's a donate button on there. You can always donate.
Thank you so much, guys. And, maybe I'll be able to do that live podcast. That would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be
something
sweet.
new for me to try. So,
That's right.
Thank you, guys. And we will, I'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. If you can, help me out. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. We got podcasts coming out left and right, so you're not going to want to miss them. I want to thank Don and Jonathan for coming on and sharing their stories. If you can, go over to the Right Directions page. I got links down below and donate. It's one of my favorite nonprofits here because they're teaching kids how to do badass stuff. They're mountain biking. They're doing BMX, they're doing slackline, they're doing scooters, they're doing backflips, front flips, and they're out in the community teaching life skills, which I think is awesome. And getting these kids out there and involved in the community is a great thing. So head over to The Right Direction and learn more about them. And, thank you guys for all the support I've been getting. I'm really appreciating it. And I can't wait to see you all on the next episode.